the beat usually tells me what to say. The stuff is already in there. It's like a full cup. The inspiration is the nudge. Somebody bumps you and it just takes the right nudge to spill your drink.
Look, I've been sober for a couple months. No drinking alcohol. I know I ain't been puffing blunts or taking Adderall. My future self can thank me later. I just picked up some class and did away with bad behavior. But still I ask if that's enough or if there's more to do.
I started rapping in high school. I met one of my best friends' older brother rapped. And this was around the time that I started listening to rap music. So I got really into Nas, Tupac, and DMX were probably the three on rotation. I really like Nas's writing. I used to write stories when I was a kid already. And I would take characters that already existed, like Bart Simpson or Beavis and Butthead, and just write stories around those characters. And then we moved from New York when I was 7 years old. I had gotten into an art school, actually, when I was a kid. I was supposed to go to an art school. It was in New York that was sort of geared towards bringing out, shedding light on creative people. And so I got in, and then my parents split up. And my mother and I moved to Michigan, and there was like no place there that was geared towards highlighting creativity artistically anywhere. So I just fell back, but I got into rap music around high school and met this kid, and he rapped just like Nas. Like, he was incredible. And I started writing and rapping, and I would rap to him, and he would tell me it's garbage, change it, go back. And then I would rewrite, go back to him, and he became sort of my compass. And I knew that the less and less critique he gave me, I knew I was getting better and better. And I always wrote my songs in the beginning as if I was trying to impress him. And I knew that if he could say nothing, then I was good.
Do you still talk to him?
He is locked up. He's in prison right now. So I don't get to talk to him. But I talk to his brother, who was my best friend. And he's also locked up. But he speaks to me. He calls me daily. So we still keep
Every
in contact.
day.
He calls me daily, yeah.
James, that's really intense.
Yeah. It was kind of intense. It was really intense in the beginning when I spoke to him. But he's such in good spirits. Like, he's been in prison since 2008, and he used to live with us. He was like my brother, and he still laughs the same. He's got this contagious laugh. And so, initially when I spoke to him on the phone, I used to be sad, but then it just became like, he's got this, he's got this. He should be out soon, so.
Whoa. So now it's just like he's a few states away or something. It's just like a regular long distance call.
Yeah.
But he's literally behind bars.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
So there's no way to pivot off of that elegantly because that's like extremely heavy.
Yeah, sorry.
But this isn't like an episode of Artist of the Month about incarceration, and so
No, I know. I like
to
start light.
Super light. Me too. Well, so your rap, when I listen to it, I feel like people would kind of classify it as like a conscious rap. Not just because of the messaging of it, but because the style just feels like it's in that conscious rap style. I don't even know if there's like a genre of rap that like lends itself more to the quote unquote conscious or not. But tell me about some of your influences, how you got to the current sound that you've got now. I have my ideas about what you're going to say, but go ahead and share.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I sort of just picked these people that I wanted to sound like or that I liked, and they sort of brushed off on me. I think naturally you just sort of take on whatever you're consuming, just as you hang out with people or just whatever you consume, you just sponge it up. So I picked a few people that I liked. Like I said, Nas, I loved his writing style with the imagery. He was able to paint pictures. And I always liked Tupac for his heart in the sound. And I always thought that if I could combine the two and just tell my story, I would be able to do that. But then I had to stop listening to them. So I would really study them, and then I had to stop listening to them because I would take on some of their sounds unintentionally, which I think
when
just
you say
happens.
Sounds, what do you mean? Just like kind of the cadence of their
cadence.
voice? Or...
The cadence. It was really weird
that is
with
such a real
Tupac.
thing. And it's so hard to break out of a cadence once you have it, rap-wise.
Well, rap wise though, I'm really glad that I have a distinct voice. It's different. So even if I
Yeah,
rapped like Nas, I don't think people would say he sounds like Nas because I just don't
that's so
sound
true
like
about
him.
you. Yeah.
But with Tupac, it's weird because Tupac does these things where he stretches out his voice a little bit. So if you even take it on a little bit, you sound like almost like a Tupac impersonator. And so
Mm.
I quickly was able to I had to stop listening to him because that's all I would listen to is Tupac for a long time. I really liked Common and I liked Kanye West. I thought Kanye West was like the perfect balance of witty personality, but doesn't have to be like a gangster or about that type of life, but he can talk about things. Um, and also he was very sarcastic and he was kind of funny, but not over the top funny like Eminem. He had like a really good balance. And basically just like the first person that was a human being in rap form that I felt like I really connected with. Um,
This would have been early Kanye.
like College
Like those
Dropout
first
Kanye.
three. Yeah.
Yeah, actually the same rapper friend.
That's a really different Kanye.
A very different Kanye, but kind of not because he still had like Jesus Walks, and now he's back onto the religious thing. But he was always had something to say that was deeper than this was like the time 50 Cent was popping, and these other rappers were so geared towards a certain lifestyle that he was not a part of, and he was still able to shine during that time, and I thought that was really dope.
Yeah. And then of course there's Miss Lauryn Hill,
Mm,
who just released a song, or Nas just released a song that's featuring her, and that's like the first rap from Lauryn Hill that I've heard in years. She
yeah.
released like a couple singles, or at least one single in the last decade, but other than that, it's just like she's standing still tall on one album, and then a
Yeah.
live album, and
I
then
love
some
that live
features,
album.
and then a Kanye sample that wasn't really a sample. It was like someone else singing what sounded like her sample.
Mhm.
She's a
Yeah.
really special,
She's
really special
amazing.
lady.
She's so amazing. She's one of the best. I think she's the best now. I didn't necessarily understand her importance at the time that she was important. I wish I would have, but just digging back, I had like this like fell in love with her music. Just and I'm glad I did when I did because I don't think I would have appreciated it anyway if I was to really listen to it back then. I'm in a place now where everything she's saying resonates with me. Everything. Um,
Everything.
just everything from her, especially like the Zion song. Um, when she was so young and not listening to people tell her not to have this kid, and I
She got
love,
pregnant as a young
yeah,
woman, yeah.
yeah, and everyone's just like focus on your career, and the fact that I saw this interview with her where she said I didn't look at it as a burden. I looked at having a kid as a responsibility, um, a blessing as a responsibility, and I just thought she's just that was incredible.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, I mean, talking about unborn children, and we're in a time where that's a hot button topic again. It's easy to take that topic and spin it really politically, but
Hmm.
Lauryn Hill never has that vibe. I mean, she positions herself as a prophet and like somebody who's calling out the culture on things. But I don't think of Lauryn Hill as someone who's like necessarily speaking truth to power as much as she is speaking truth to the grassroots people on the ground. And not that she doesn't do the other things. I think even especially that single that she released in the last decade kind of spoke more to systemic stuff. But I mean, she's a lot like you in that respect. Like you touch on certain topics, but not in a way that people would necessarily think of as political. And it's funny because I think the first song that I ever heard of yours would have been Social Distance, because you followed me on Twitter or Loom or something, and I it might have been after you messaged me or before. I don't quite remember. We got connected in one of these apps, and the first song that I heard was Social Distance. And as soon as I saw this, I was in a very resentful I've been resentful for much of this pandemic, but I was really resentful of the lockdowns. I was really, I'm an economics geek, so I was really concerned about the economy, and I'm really kind of like just contrarian. So whatever the crowd is doing or whatever the crowd is afraid of or whatever they like, I just don't want to stay away from, which is a silly impulse. But But the crowd at the time was very fearful of the pandemic, and I'm over here just like with my arms crossed, like, no, I'm not going to be afraid. And I heard your song Social Distance, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of, I didn't write you off, but I was like, oh, he's one of those rappers that's like, he's a lefty, and he's got all the same ideas as everyone else, who's just like, these are the issues and we got to like talk about the issues, but I'm not really going to go much deeper, and I haven't really read a book or anything. I just feel this way. But what I found when I started talking to you, and it might have been when I read your Twitter feed, I saw something completely different. And I saw somebody who reads Jordan Peterson, and I saw someone who cares deeply about nuance and is arguably kind of conservative.
Yeah.
And that was a shock to me. And not the least of which reason is because conservative rappers suck, just like across the board. I am famous for saying this. I will say it in public. And yes, it is a subtweet of all the conservative rappers you're thinking of. They all suck. They don't have good flow. They don't have creative verses. And you are not that. You are a different animal altogether from where I'm coming from. So that's a really big spiel that I just went on. But I would love to hear about your political origin story, how you came to land where you are politically, or not land, because not landing is okay too. But what's your background there, James?
So I didn't know, I tried to talk to my mom earlier about this because I don't remember politics really being anything when I was a kid. It was more, my parents and I lived in New York, so we were on a street with a gay bar, and there was a gay bouncer his name's Sasha, and he had a beard, and he kind of looked like Santa Claus, but he had a dog collar chain on his wrist, and he would play Santa Claus for me, and I noticed when I was like 3 because I'm like, that's Sasha's dog collar, even though he had a Santa suit on, and he, and so I grew up in New York. It's like we lived in the Village, so we were very liberal, and I always just felt like I didn't know too much about politics, and I didn't care. I just care about people, and they never forced anything on me. I think my dad voted for Ross Perot. I heard that I outed him when I was like 4 because he took me in the voting booth, and I was like, "Mom's gonna be mad you voted for Ross Perot" in front of everybody. I don't remember saying that. So,
No.
But yeah, that was a real thing. So, but my dad, my parents were so liberal in the way that they treat people. But I think that it was more a God or like a religious thing. We were sort of the outcasts of our whole family. My whole family's filled with conservatives, but they got along with my parents. So we had, maybe they had different political views, but they never forced them on me, and I never cared until I think it was when Trump was running. I was almost certain my dad was going to vote for Hillary because he liked Bill. I think he liked Bill. I'm not too sure. And everyone was aligning. If you voted for Trump, you were evil because Trump is evil. And if somebody's evil and you align with them in any way, you align with them every way, which to me never made sense because it doesn't matter who you're friends with. You could have a best friend. You're never going to see eye to eye on everything. There's no way. It's impossible. So just that line of thinking alone didn't make sense to me. I didn't realize I was on the right until people started pushing me there. I went to have conversations with people because I like to learn, and people didn't want to talk. They wanted to bring up ideas. I've had the same stance on abortion, for instance, since I was 7, since I found out what it was. It's not a political stance. It's when I found out what it was, I thought it was wrong as a 7-year-old. My mother made an appointment to have an abortion when she was pregnant with me. So when women would not want to talk to me about these things because I was a man, I was trying to explain, like, listen, I understand where you're coming from. You're a woman, and I totally understand. But I'm also coming from a kid. I was a kid, and I'm coming from a position of where my mother and I, who is a woman, can talk about these things, and that there's different levels. And I care about, I care about life, but I also care about kids growing up under a family with loving parents. There's not one way to solve these problems. I just want to talk, and I was being pushed further and further away from just wanting to talk, and that's when I found out like something was wrong.
Something was wrong. When did that start? Do you remember the conversation always being that way? Was there
No,
a
I don't.
time where you felt, so you think there was a shift?
I think there was a shift just because it was almost like uh, everyone was talking about how, well, like I said before, I didn't know if I called my dad and I was like, what's going on here? Like, why is everyone, I didn't know Trump was this bad. We're voting for Hillary, right? And he was like, no, like I'm voting for Trump. And I was like, well, they're saying all this bad stuff about him. And he's like, you have to research more. Like, this is going to be really important. It was the first time my dad told me that this was going to be an important. I never voted before that. I never voted. And he said, this is going to be one that you're going to want to vote.
Your dad passed away shortly after that.
He passed away. Yeah, he passed away in 2018, I think. I'm so bad with dates. My mom remembers everything, everyone that passes away. But
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, it was 2018. He passed away. He got a lung disease that he had and passed away. Um, but I just knew that who my dad was as a person was not what people were saying you were if you voted for this guy.
Yeah.
Which made me not necessarily say that my dad was right, but just made me want to start paying attention to what was going on. Although I still have surface level knowledge of politics, and I tend to want to keep it that way because the people that are in power, I believe, that you can't make a career out of something when you really want to make a change without having an ulterior motive. You look at firefighters and you realize that they're really trying to do something to save people for real. They don't make that much money. But to be a politician, if you create a career out of it, you're going to just want to choose reasons to get voted. And um, I just I don't like how it works. I think that there's way more work to be done face to face, ground level, and we underestimate the impact we have daily.
Yeah, I can see how that is consistent with your worldview as I've seen it. Two things. One, I think my best friend and producer Chris, who's literally in the other room, probably working on your music right now. um, I think his father passed away the same year as yours. It
Yeah,
might
he
have been
told me.
2019, actually. Oh yeah, you guys
Yeah,
have
he did.
talked
He
about
did.
that.
We didn't get deep into it, but he did tell me that, and I was like, oh man. And yeah, it was yeah, that was actually I used to have dreams that he would pass away before he was sick, and I tried to
Mm.
I tried to. I just don't want to be like make this morbid, but because I'm good with it, it's fine. It was a lesson. But I used to like try to realize what life would be like without him, even before he was sick, because I knew that it was gonna change me really. It was gonna really change my life when I lost him because he was my best friend. And believe it or not, he's still to this day probably one of the only people I feel like really understands me.
Mm.
Because we shared a lot of things as when I was young. We shared a lot. We were almost the same person.
Yeah, that's deep. I haven't lost a parent yet, but that's what I hear from everybody who does. Like it's like a shift that you can't even imagine. The universe looks a little bit different, and it must be all the more heavy when it's somebody who actually does understand you so well. I know that was Chris's situation too. Um, tell me about tell me the story that you told me on the phone when we talked the other day about your father and the homeless guy, because I think people have, some conception of what a Trump voter is like, or how they treat poor people, or you even mentioned like gay people at the beginning of this, and I
Mhm.
feel like your father rebuked all of those stereotypes with how he lived.
Yeah, that was one of the things that kind of shocked me because I'm like, they're saying all these things about people that vote one way, and I'm like, they don't know this guy. Yeah, so he owned a salon. He owned a salon in New York, and every day it was kind of in the basement. Like you walk down the stairs, and that's where the front door is. And there was this guy Rico that used to sleep there. Not only, I mean, this guy has all types of stereotypes. He's Jamaican, he's gay, he's an ex-heroin user, and he's homeless. Um, and he taught me how to ride a bike. But he used to sleep on the bottom stair when before my dad would go down to his salon, and instead of just stepping over him, he was like, "Hey, do you want to work? Do you want a job?" And he gave him a job, and he befriended him, and he let him stay with him, and they became great friends. And Rico would say things like if he had to go get a air conditioner or something, my dad would want to get a cab and go down to Canal Street and get an air conditioner, and Rico would say, why are you gonna get a cab? It's too expensive. Let's walk. I'll carry it. Because Rico was a strong guy, and Rico became the super of the building next door, and he started to work, and he was living good. He was living there now. He was no longer homeless. And I ran into him the other day, and he's he still looks the same. He's a little more gray, but he even said something to me because I had to break him the news that my dad passed away, and he was like, and I asked him, I said, where are you staying now? He hurt his knee, so he couldn't work anymore. He wasn't working. And I said, where are you staying? And he said, anywhere they'll have me, anywhere they'll have me. But he was in good spirits, happier than people who have houses. And I said, you got to get your knee fixed. And he said, if your dad was around, I know I could have stayed with him. And, it made me want to bring him home. Because he was like this legend in my head. I just remember Rico as the guy that like held the back of my bike when I first took the training wheels off and was pushing me fast so that I could ride without falling over. He was somebody that was in my life. And I've been walking around for 7 years in my old neighborhood hoping to run into him. And I finally did, because they told me he was still around.
Do you have any songs about Rico?
I don't. I should, but I really, I'd rather make like a movie or something about him, or like or just talk to him. I want to just talk to him more. I want to make sure he's okay. I want to go back and see if he got his knee fixed. I told him, next time I see you, you better have your knee fixed, because he has insurance. So
is that a threat?
It was a threat. I was, because he's only like 60 years old. He shouldn't be limping like that. But he's a good guy, still a good guy.
That's amazing. I know that your dad would be really proud of you for carrying on his legacy in whatever sense you can, whether it's for Rico or for other people that you come across. When I asked if you had a song about him, I didn't mean to be trite. It's so funny because when you're a musician and people know that you're a musician, it's like anything that's like any topic that comes up in any conversation. People don't know what to say, and they're like, oh, why don't you write a song about it, Alma? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. You definitely know how my process works, because I could just pick a topic out of a hat and write. Tell me where your songwriting inspiration comes from, whether it is a more quote-unquote conscious rap song about a hypothetical Rico or something, or social distance, or like whatever you have, or whether it's a love song or something completely different.
Yeah, so it's interesting. For love songs, the funniest thing is, I feel like when I had this like really traumatic relationship when I was younger, and for some reason, even though I'm like so over it now, I can always go back to that if I want to write something current, and I can just pull like as much as I need from just that experience alone, and I'll always have something to say. It's like I can snap and I'll be back there in it. Not like I'll bring myself down emotionally, but I have enough. There's like enough material in that bag to write songs until I pass away.
Have you had girlfriends since then, James?
I had someone I was seeing, but I kept trying to say it wasn't a relationship, and it wasn't a relationship, and it was, and she's such a good person, but that spark, there was something missing there. You know what I mean? It was like we lined up on paper, but I didn't feel like the luckiest person in the world when I was with her. I want to
dig into that. This is totally not related to music.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm
Do you
like
think that
all
that's
over
important?
the place.
See, I would not have expected. No, it's not you that's all over. It's me. But I would not have expected you to place a lot of value on the spark in a relationship. Because a lot of the posts I see from you on Twitter are emphasizing virtue and value and consistency and showing up and deciding to love someone. I'm reading a lot into your tweets right now. There's no like, I can't point to a specific one here, but that's the vibe that I get, is like the work that it takes to love. And I've been thinking a lot about this recently because, whether in myself or in other people, I notice that a lot of times the person you have the strongest connection with is like the relationship that goes up in flames because it was it was a spark that lit a fire. It was just the wrong kind of fire.
Yeah.
And the loves that last can sometimes, or maybe usually, are the quiet ones. So what are your thoughts on that, James?
Well, you need a balance. You definitely need a balance. One or the other doesn't work. I feel like I've said this before, probably on Twitter, but paper is not strong enough to hold people together. And I always relate everything to God in some way. There's a song, I don't know if you've heard it. It's written by Lifehouse, I think. Lifehouse? You ever heard of that band?
Or they're like a Christian band, right?
They don't categorize themselves as that, but they are Christians, I think. And they have a song called Everything. And I watched an interview, and the song is basically about, like, I can't stand here and not be moved by you, or something, these lyrics. And what I believe, and you have to know what love is to you. Everyone is different. It's different for everyone, and it's only up to you to decide. And again, I go back to God. No one can tell you how you feel about God. That's you and your relationship alone. But I do believe that, because I feel this way with friends and I feel this way with family, that you can't prove that God exists, but you either know it or you don't, and it's a feeling. And a lot of people were saying that during this concert that Lifehouse would do, during that specific song, if you read the song lyrics, it could be said as a man to a woman, or a woman to a man, or a couple, whatever couple, right? He's talking about, how can I stand here and not be moved by you? You're my everything, you're my light, whatever. A lot of people would propose to their lovers during this song because it makes sense. But what they revealed is that the song is not about a partner. It's about God.
Yeah, that's a worship song.
It's a worship song.
I'm sitting here like laughing to myself when I think about that.
Yeah, it's a worship song, but the point is that you can say it to somebody and it makes sense just the same as if you were saying it to God. And I feel like you need that in the person that you're sharing a life with, because paper is not, you're going to be tested. Like, life is going to test you, and it's going to test your faith. It's going to test you being faithful with your partner, and paper is not going to hold. You need something else. You need that feeling of God in the person that you're sharing your life with. It's a huge commitment. And that's why you get married in a church. So that's just my personal belief. I think it's super important. I don't need someone could line up on paper and we say this makes sense, and she can laugh at my jokes, and we can have a kid together and call it a day. But when 20 years from now I'm feeling something else with someone at the office, it needs to be the love I have for God and this feeling that I know is my soul mate that's going to say, you know what, nah, I can't, because I love this person.
That's so weird. Oh, James, I feel like I could say everything that you just said and flip the sides, and it would be just as compelling. And that's where I land, is like, you can have a spark with somebody, but 20 years down the line, that spark is going to wear off. Like that.
Does it wear off with God, though? Does it wear off with God?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah? I never question.
Yeah.
I never question my faith with God ever.
I think that there's like a maturing that happens, after which point you're solid with God. But do I think of that as a feeling? I mean, there are feelings associated with it, but I don't think it's rooted in a feeling. I think it's rooted in the reality of God's unconditional care for you, and your decision to be faithful to Him every day. And it is a decision, because like, we all know what it's like to be tempted to disobey God, and like choose to be self-serving in this or that way. And it's not our feeling toward God, I think, that keeps us from doing that. I think it's actually just the decision that we've made, saying, okay, like, I get what you would call paper. Like, I see who God is. I see this list of attributes that He is or isn't, and this list of attributes that I am in relation to Him. And I have to remember that, because it's so easy to forget when you are in your feelings and trying to be selfish or do something that's wronging yourself or others. I don't know.
Well,
it's interesting. Like, I'm surprised to hear you make the case, which is why I pushed it, because I'm like, that's unexpected. But
well,
I think I see where you're coming from.
But I never. It's almost okay. I guess what I should say is I don't like my friends. I don't love my friends because of what they do for me. I don't love my friends because who they are on paper. You can't explain it. It's intangible. It's something you just feel. You just know they'll lay down in traffic for you. But even if they didn't, you would do the same for them. They hold you high, and you hold them high. You think they're, you think that they're higher than you, but they think you're higher than them. It's a mutual thing. Like I always talk about my dad, who, like I said, he thinks he married up, but my mom thinks she married up. It's
I love that.
it's like you're a catch, and she's like, no, you're a catch. And if I can't look across the room and see my partner and be like, man, I cannot believe that this person chose to be with me. And I just know that I'm going to feel that for the rest of my life, because I look at my mom and I still cannot believe that she's my mom. I think back to my dad, and I cannot believe that I was this lucky that I was with my dad, or have this as a father. I see my friends, and in silence, I can look at them across the room and they don't see me looking at them. And I just cannot believe that I was so blessed to have these people in my life. And I need to feel that way about my partner, because I believe that if we're going to have children, or we're going to live together, there's going to be differences. There's going to be things that maybe, you keep going down on paper, and maybe we start growing in different directions, or we start thinking there's differences, or, like my dad, this is going to bring it weird, but my mom, one of the unique things is that my dad was on a search to find God in a different way. He stopped going to church when I was really young, and so did I, because I didn't like church at all. And my dad was searching for the truth, and he wasn't finding it in church. And so he tried a whole bunch of religions, and then towards his later years, he converted to Judaism. It took him 8 years, and he had to learn how to read Hebrew and all this stuff. And my mom is still a Christian. And so that was another thing where it was like, man, so like Christians got this John 3:16 rule, and it's like, so now where's my dad now? Is he gonna be there? If he's not gonna be there, then I don't want to be there. There was that, and it's weird because I've never been like a Jesus person, but I've always had a relationship with God. And again, no one can tell you what your relationship with God is. It's a personal thing. Same with love, I believe. Whatever you think love is, that's your business, and that should be your thoughts. But I know how I feel about the people around me and what it means, and I know when I'll feel that again, when it's unique with this person. You know what I mean? But my parents they were able to get along, even though, like, you got two people who are from different religious points and still were able to make it because they got back together.
Oh, they got back together.
Mm-hmm.
Did they? But they divorced.
They didn't divorce. They just split up. They split up. My dad moved to Canada and was like with some other girl, and my mom was moved with me to Michigan, and then they got back together.
Oh, wow.
But they never got a divorce. Yeah.
That is so fascinating, James.
Yeah, it was wild.
I think I get pieces of that. I think I relate to it maybe more with friends than I do with like lovers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I need to chew on it. That's going to challenge me for a little while. Because there is like a spark of the divine. There's something like Chris in the other room. Our friendship was like predestined.
There you go. And what is that?
Actually, it's so weird. I mean, he's a super special case, though. I mean, like this boy, when I met him in the student lounge at Columbia College and we were both music students, he literally like looked me up on Facebook that night, saw the song that I had written, and then messaged me like, this is going to sound weird, but I feel like God put each other in each other's lives for a reason. And I don't know what that is. He wasn't hitting on me. Like, I feel like most girls would have been like, yeah, for sure, dude.
Right.
For sure, God put me in your life for your reason. But it wasn't like that. And lo and behold, 10 years later, we're roommates, we're best friends, we're musical partners. And that's incredibly special and incredibly divine. So I kind of get it from that angle. Like, Chris is irreplaceable. There's no one like it. But does that have to be every friendship I have? No. I don't know.
No, but does it have to? I mean, if you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody, though, how many people are your roommates, though? But you chose Chris because it works. Not everyone can be your roommate either. I'm sure there's things on paper where anyone can be your roommate. A lot of people pay rent. A lot of people are quiet. A lot of people are tidy.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you really want to be able to swap out 1,000 people? There's 350 million people in this country. You want to be able to swap out everyone that looks good on paper with the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with and raise children? I don't know. Bars. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I got us on this super tangent, and I'm glad that I did because that's super interesting. But let's see. I was talking about, What were we talking about? We were talking about songwriting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Inspiration.
tell me about your songwriting process, your inspiration, what you choose, how it works.
So how it works, I used to have like writing sessions when I was 19. I would sit down, I would say I'm going to the studio at this time and I'm going to write and I'm going to make sure I come out. I want at least 2 songs that I'm going to that was my goal.
You go to the studio? Like
Well, I had a studio.
Recording?
I had one. My dad had like some credit card points at the time and like made me a booth because he was like he could make anything. He literally just made me a booth made of foam and it had a door on it and a light. And he got me like a Bluebird microphone and he got Pro Tools. And he was like, so I would go to the studio was at his he owned his own business and it was at like he converted it was a storage facility into a hair color. He sold hair color products with his name on it. And that was his business. So the back of it had like an office room and that's where we put the booth. And I would go there and like no one would be there after 8:00 at night. So I could just be loud.
Gosh.
Yeah. So me and my friends would go there.
That is such a gift. So when you said going to the studio, I was like, he's paying for studio time just to write a song? That is insane.
Yeah,
but
no,
now
I
get
was.
it, and that's so sweet. How sweet is that?
Yeah, I was. And it became too expensive. And I was like, Dad, I gotta get my own studio. And he just, So I would go there and I would write and I would try. My goal would be like 2 songs every time I go there, and I would force myself to write, but I don't do that anymore. Now, I'm more like inspiration just comes from. I kind of what's the person in the courtroom that types it's like is a transcriber,
Stenographer.
Yeah. So that's how I feel like music comes to me. It's not necessarily like I'm thinking. I'm more or less listening. So whether it's a beat or something, the words just kind of come out and I just have to grab them. The beat usually tells me what to say. The stuff is already in there somewhere and it's like a full cup. But the inspiration is the nudge. Somebody bumps you and stuff starts spilling out. That's kind of how I feel. It's not that you're trying to come up with new ideas. It's that these are things that are already in your subconscious and it just takes the right nudge to spill your drink.
That's deep. That's more bars.
I'm gonna try to drop.
I love that, and I relate to that a lot. I've sometimes compared songwriting to like scratch art. You know those little panels you would get when you're a kid that has like black wax, and then you scratch away the wax, and it's like a rainbow pattern underneath or something. And you can decide the shape of it. Like you have some autonomy, but that pattern behind it is not going away. Like all you could do is take away and reveal what's there. And that's how I feel. That's how I feel when I write songs. And I agree with you. Like, yeah, I agree. It's funny because Chris has some rap beats that he wants to sell somebody. And he was like, like I really like James and I like his writing. This stuff is really dark though. Like these beats need something dark. And it's almost like each of us have a lane. We have some kind of like musical calling and things that we're more inclined to write about and ways that we're more inclined to write about it. And that was interesting to me when he noted that because you're distinct from the next rapper in whatever way. I'm not making any sense now, but
no, I get it. It's and like even Chris, I talked to him. I think it was like 2 days ago because he sent me this beat and the hook came to me immediately. I remember what happened because I got off the elevator and I don't have service in the elevator at my job, but I got out of my job and I was walking down the street and he emailed it to me and I was like, I'm listening to this in 5 minutes. So I got off the elevator, come out, listened to it, and the hook came to me right away. It came to me. It's not like I thought about it. Just I heard it. So then I set it into my phone so I wouldn't forget by the time I got home. And then I tried to write and nothing was coming to me. So then you texted me. You said something about, I hear your music in the other room. That was a Friday. I was like, I'm going to try to go home and write to these one more time. Because Chris was like, if you don't come up with something, can I give these to other people? Like, are you going to use these? And I'm like, dude, I'm trying. I wasn't really like sitting there for long. I was like, if something comes to me, it comes to me and I'll write it. If not, I'm leaving it alone. I'll walk away. I don't like to spend too much time. I want it to happen naturally. Nothing happened. So I got home. I think I wrote like 6 bars and was like, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep, but I have something now. That I woke up in the next morning and I wrote the song in maybe 10, 15 minutes because it just wrote itself.
Really?
Yeah, it wrote itself. And he's like, I'll never understand how songwriters write. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't. I'm telling you, I tried for 3 days and nothing came, and then I just waited, and then it happened. So I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I don't know how it works either. It's so mysterious. There's a song that I've been working on, and I'm not like 100% satisfied with it, but I think I just kind of have to let it be that way. It's called Long Division. It'll probably come out in not too long once it's tracked and stuff.
So excited for your project.
And I have a new song actually that I think is slated to come out at the end of September here. We're recording this before October when your feature is. And yeah, I don't want to tie myself to a date by announcing it publicly, but that one's Bobby. That's a fun song.
I love the clip that you put out for that, and it was like, oh man, like your songs are crazy. Like you're dangerous too. Like I can literally rap the whole the what was it? The blame shifts, the game drifts, but can we gauge the status of our tameness? Each society has a laugh at improprieties of the past that I'm not so sure that we're really past yet. But we've got tactics, always unafraid to be, trading up the old chains for a new brand of slavery, making apathy from tolerance, indulgence from desire, piloting onto a soapbox that's only getting higher, and before you know it, we're on fire. Say that you're inspired, but I don't think you understood me, walking around like no shame about the way that we're wired, but how we're wired is the way we should be. And it could be, but hit me with your best defense and Operation Do Whatever You Feel commence. But if you listen, I have a lesson for the choir and the critics called The First Law of Spiritual Physics, and I'm like, what is that? I was like, what happened? Like, that verse, I'm like, you're dangerous. You're dangerous. That verse is crazy.
I just got chills listening to you rap my own rap back to me.
That verse is crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like,
that was so surreal hearing you you spit that.
Nah, you wouldn't even believe how I felt when I heard that album. I was like, this is so stupid. Like who is this person? And then the fact that like I could go on and on, but I'm just like, and then Surefire, and I was listening to that in the truck. I remember I heard it in the truck, and then I think I replayed it for like 3 hours on replay, because that's one of those certain pop songs I feel like you can just replay and they make you like, I could run 50 miles just on replay on loop, but then I couldn't listen to it anymore because I'm like, it's so personal that it hurts. Like I can't listen to that song anymore. I can't hear it because I get that. Like I understand that I don't even want to go there. Like I can't go there. That's how personal that song is.
This is the Artist of the Month interview where you talk to me about my own music.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it feels really good. It feels
like
really
fan.
good to know that it's so touching to people. You know what's funny about Take 21 and Tactics is Showtime actually optioned it to be in the credits of their TV show The Circus, which is about like the Trump administration and how terrible it is. Ooh. And what's really funny is like Take 21 and Tactics is almost more about like dragging activists than it is about dragging some like
t-shirt.
And yet they think like people hear it and they think like, oh, this is like a super like power to the people song, and it is. Again, it's kind of in that Lauryn Hill sense, like it sort of is, but it's not the hypocrisy that you think. Like it's not pointing at them, it's pointing at you always. Like literally, no matter who you is, it's pointing at you.
Yes, I love that. You said a line about a t-shirt in there, and I was on Take 21, I think. Yeah, where you said this line about the t-shirt thing, and that's
those who want revolution just enough to wear a t-shirt.
And I always, that's another thing. Like I had this song about 2020. It wasn't even a song, it was just a long verse, I guess, but where I said something to where it was like we can start a movement. No, it was we can start a movement. Who you gonna side with? We could start a revolution, see who gets behind it. A million different groups only proves we're divided. And it was like I was trying to kind of call out. It's like you guys are trying to get together, but everyone's getting together in groups, but all the groups are divided. So there's no way you can spin it where you're not. You have to be able to see your own hypocrisy. Everyone has it.
Yeah.
And if you can't call yourself out, you have no business calling out anybody else. And I think that
everyone does have it. Yeah, and I feel like that's where you and me occupy a space on Twitter that's like all about that. I feel like like it's just about like focus on making yourself better. Like what makes you think you're actually better than that person that you're calling out or accusing.
Yeah,
and
you're
literally
not.
Like whether you're calling out a billionaire for being too rich and not generous enough, or you're calling out this person for how they they treat women or this person for how they feel about XYZ issue. It's like, give me a break. Like, do you have nothing better to do than tell someone else what they need to work on? Because like, I know myself, I have a lot more to work on than I should. Like, I have enough keeping me busy on like within myself that I don't need to be trying to fix other people's business, which is like a very biblical idea. And now, again, I've forgotten where we are in this conversation.
We were talking about inspiration for writing songs. Sorry. We were talking about inspiration for writing songs.
No, it's good. Yes. So this song that I was working on, Long Division, there's a lot about it that makes me very happy. But I think I have to live with the fact that it's not really meant to be a perfect product, and it will never be. And I fought so hard to make it. And I tweaked lines here and there. I must have spent like 12, 16 hours on this song. And normally I probably just would have kicked it aside and been like, it's not meant to be. But it felt like it was so close to something that I wanted to keep fighting. And I don't know. I don't think that I'll ever be fully satisfied. But it was an interesting experience, because normally it is more like a flood, like the deluge just kind of comes, and if a song is worth writing, it will write itself, and this one totally didn't. It was weird.
Sometimes I'll choose different beats though too. Like, it's weird. I don't know if it's the same for singers, because for me it's yeah. I feel like a lot of times, ironically, I can sometimes, even if there's a melody and a hook, I can sing it to multiple. I'm sure you do this, or maybe you can sing almost any song to another beat. It's just, it may not sound good, or you have to switch the key, but you can kind of find it. It has to, it's as long as it's similar. And sometimes I'll start writing to a beat and then I'll get stuck. And the minute I switch to something else, same song, just start writing it to another beat, I'll finish it. And then I'll go back to the other beat because I think it sounds better on that one. But it took another beat for me to finish it. I don't know why that works. Or
it does tease different things out of you.
Yeah, or if I'm in writers...
It's much different for singers, though, because I disagree. You can't sing the same thing over everything. But for beats, like, what you're dealing with is mostly loops. Mm-hmm. And so it makes sense that you could theoretically sing it, like, more close to anything over it.
Yeah.
The songs are not as repetitive as that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's... Yeah, the verses you can put on anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, instruments are kind of an equivalent, though. Like, if something isn't coming to you on piano, you could try it on guitar. And if it's not coming to you on guitar, you could even try it on, like, banjo. Or you could try just hitting the table like it's a drum and writing it that way. Like, that's kind of the equivalent, I think, for singer-songwriters. Yeah, but, I mean, inspiration happens all the time. It's weird. You don't even know where it comes from. It's so strange. It's almost I know I used to take martial arts when I was a kid, and it's kind of similar. It's very weird how it's similar, but it's like when you take martial arts, you learn all the moves first, but then your idea is to sort of like forget the stiffness of the movements, because if you can't if you're too stiff, you're not going to be able to adapt to different opponents that are standing in front of you. So, Bruce Lee always had this philosophy of like learn and then forget, but like the muscle memory will take you through the rest. So you're learning the moves in such a stiff way, but then you have to forget the stiffness part, and the moves are supposed to come as second nature. Yeah. And it's sort of the same thing. It's like, I learned how to rap, I studied how to do it, what's the structure, how do you say these words, how do I want to sound, and then I just have to stop listening to them and be myself and let whatever happens happen. I think a lot of athletics are like that, and ballroom dance, which I competed in for a little while, is very much like that. You train so hard to do this or that. Like, let's take cha-cha. Like, with cha-cha, like, there's an element of it that's very marchy, and so you might, like, focus on just making it, like, very marchy. And then another one where, like, you're focusing on hips, and, like, so you're trying to get the angles right. And then when you actually are in the competition, or when you're just dancing for fun, you're not thinking of any of that. It is the learn and forget. Yeah. Well, you've got great intuition. You have excellent intuition for rap. And I mean, every bit of praise that I've thrown upon you in private and here publicly, like, I've meant it. So I'm wondering what you're doing next. I know you're working on an album. What do you envision for that? And really, like, maybe this is too meta, but I don't know what kind of artist that you even want to be. Like, I am not hustling for my quote-unquote music career the way someone does if they actually want to have a music career. And I see something similar in you. You're not really doing the gimmicks. You're not
you're certainly not DMing strangers on the internet like, listen to my stuff. You're not putting together elaborate release shows and following like the playbook of what you're supposed to do if you want to get good traction. You're not sending out press release, like, you know what I mean? And so I almost wonder if you're more like me, where you just like the craft and like throwing stuff out there. What are you doing, James?
Yeah, I don't even know. Can you tell me? I no, it goes back to kind of politics in a way. It's like when people started telling me, the 19-year-old me, I thought I wanted to be like famous and like known for like doing music, and I need to go on tour and all that stuff, even though performing is like my favorite thing in the world. I don't care anymore about any of that stuff. I just don't want to be famous. I don't think. Actually, I know I don't want to be famous. I know that. I don't care. Like, people started talking about marketing, and I'm like, marketing? This is music. It's the same thing with politics. It's like, you're turning it into a business, but people have problems. This is not why you do it. I don't create songs because I want to market them and shove them down people's throats. If you like it, I hope you like it. Listen to it. If you don't like it, there's the garbage. I'm going to be here creating as long as I feel the need to create, because I love doing it. I just wanted to create a project that could live forever, that when this whole place goes up in flames, if somebody finds it, they'll still be able to, they'll be able to get a piece of history and say, oh man, like, so this is how civilization was here. And that's all I wanted. I don't know. Like, even Chris was asking me, like, what are the singles? I'm like, I don't care about singles. I don't know. And I don't like recording videos because I hate being on camera. So,
Yeah.
I just want to have something exist. I imagine I'm going to try to put it out just to share, not for money. Don't want to make any money on this. I don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah.
That is such a familiar song to me. It's exactly what I say to everyone. What are the singles? I don't know. Why?
Yeah, it's not why I
Why?
wrote them. Like, do you ever write a song because you're trying to come up with a single? You just write a
Not
song.
you and me. Yeah, I know. You just write. I'm right there with you. And I feel sometimes like I'm doing a disservice to my own gifts. I don't know if that's something that you can relate to. I don't know if music ever felt like a calling to you. But part of me always wonders, looking back, I'm like, should I be trying more? Like, did God want me more steeped into this industry than I'm steeping myself? Am I running from my passion? Like, you know what I mean?
You'll figure that out on your own. Trust me. You're gonna. It's like, it's the same thing. It's a car. You know, you're in a car and God is the road. You just have to drive straight and follow the road. You're gonna end up where you're supposed to go. Just ride it out. Just do whatever your heart tells you to do. You're going to figure out if you're supposed to go harder in this direction or you're supposed to go harder in this direction. Just follow your heart on that, and you'll figure it out. If you feel like as long as you're doing that, you won't have any regrets, or you won't second guess anything.
I don't know. See, this is another area where I think I might disagree with you, and almost for the same reason as on the relationship stuff. Like, I'm just not a feelings-oriented person, and I don't trust my feelings. It's not that I don't trust my instincts. Like, it's not that I think my feelings are wrong or my instincts are wrong, but, like, if my goal is actually to, like, get to if I was handed a map to a specific place, like, I can be driving down the road and it just is the wrong road, and it's smooth as can be, but I'm just not going in the right direction. Maybe it's even close to where I'm supposed to be, but it's not the actual place. So
what if
I don't know.
What if you had a map though, and you were following what the map told you, and you ended up in a crazy neighborhood, and you started looking around, and you were getting a weird feeling? Would you still go that way?
Probably not. I'd probably go back.
I'd probably go back, yeah, because you got to trust your instincts. Like, you have intuition for some reason. You have to use it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to go all in. You know, your heart will lead you in some poor directions. Believe me. You have to have logic too. But somewhat of your intuition is not just blindly following your heart. It's real intuition. It's a feeling that's sort of guiding you away from danger, or it's a feeling of, you know, like why you hold your head high when you're happy. Because you just feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You have to kind of follow it. Don't let it lead you off a cliff, but don't tune out to it. You
don't know if you're off of a cliff until you're actually off the cliff. You know what I mean?
Well,
and
yeah.
Everything you're saying sounds great, and is even like consistent with my beliefs in other areas about like God and the Holy Spirit and stuff. And this is like suddenly becoming the most religious Braver Angels video of all time.
Which I know, and I'm not even that guy.
BA is not. I'm not usually that guy on Braver Angels, but
well, can I
think of like Jonah and the whale. Like when Jonah ran from his calling, he was derailed until he got back to his calling. So that, like, there are these examples that come to mind as like beautiful illustrations of what happens when we dodge what we're supposed to do. But go on.
But you always find, I feel like you always find your way back. Like I was kind of, I asked my mom told me this morning because I was really struggling with this question that I knew was going to come up, which is like, what do you want to be known for? And my parents used to tell me like all these stories about when I was a kid, you know, and all these stories about me impressed me. And I'm like, where is that kid? Like, what happened to that kid? You know, my mom will tell me, well, my dad would tell me that I wanted to watch Frankenstein when I was a kid. I don't know how familiar you are with the story, but you know, they created this monster with all these parts, and then the monster ends up killing this little girl. He's playing with the little girl, and he's throwing flowers in the water, and they float, and he runs out of flowers, so he grabs the girl and throws her in, and she drowns. And so they kill him at the end, and that's a horror movie, and I cried at the end, and I told my dad, and I was like 5, and told my dad that he didn't mean to do that. He thought she was supposed to float, and it's not his fault. And I'm sitting, and so my dad like told my mom, like, you know, this kid he was crying because they killed the monster, because he was telling me that they weren't, you know, doing that. They, you know, he didn't know what he was doing. And my mom tells me the story about how I loved dinosaurs when I was 5, and I talked to her boss for 40 minutes on the phone about dinosaurs. And she said that, you know, your son, I had a more intelligent conversation with your 5-year-old son than I've had with people in the office in 5 years. My mom tells me when I was 6 and her dad passed away, she said, you know, James, I'm going to see Grandpa at the cemetery. And I said, why are you going to see Grandpa? He's right here. And I pointed at her shoulder. And no one taught me these things. These things were in there somewhere. And along the line, I have been bathing in dirty water, and I'm a sponge, and I soaked up a lot of influence along the way. But I want to get back to impressing the kid that impressed me. I have not been that kid. And I feel like I've disappointed that kid a lot, and I miss that kid, and I think he's a special kid, and I want to be somebody that he would be proud to have grown up to be, and someone who that kid would look up to and follow and think is a great role model. I don't want to let that kid down, and I think that I will find my way back to that and shed all this influence that is negative, that was pulling me away from what I always knew to be true. When I was a kid, I knew right from wrong. I knew it. And you lose your way, but you can find your way back as long as you care. You know what I mean?
So you feel like gravity would pull you back?
It pulls you back.
Where you need to be.
When you listen, you have to listen. You just have to listen to the world. You have to listen to the universe. You have to listen, whatever. Listen to God if that's the part you believe. If not, you just have to listen. Sometimes you have to listen to yourself. That's, you know, like I said before with the songwriting, you're not writing, you're listening. You're listening to yourself. What is in there was already in there. The answers are in here. It's not, a lot of people look for answers outside. I'm trying to look inside. So every song I write is not for other people. It's a mirror for me. I'm trying to look at myself, see what's wrong, and hope other people relate. But I'm really writing songs to look at myself and figure out what I need to change.
Do you know what it would look like to get back to somebody that kid would be proud of? What would your day-to-day look like? What is that version of yourself doing? Is it more about the principle or like the way that you're doing things? If you're not going to be a touring famous artist, like if that's not what's going to impress the kid, what would?
No, it has nothing to do with creating things at this point. At this point, it's about just being a good person, knowing right from wrong, and follow and standing up for what I believe in, and not, if I see something wrong, not be afraid to say, I think that this is wrong. I'm sorry I feel this way, but this is how I feel, and I think this is wrong. And also be open to learn. That kid really wanted to learn. He wasn't trying to force anything down other people's throats or his ideas. He listened, because that kid was a reader, and he really liked learning, and I want to get back to that. I want to be an adult person that really learns, and that's why That's how I came across Jordan Peterson. That's how I came across Thomas Sowell. That's how I didn't know these people. I went looking and I found what I needed.
Talk to me about what you found in those people and the other figures that you've been studying for the last couple years.
I just, it's another, again, like, there's a weird ignorance. There's like a beauty in this ignorance when you're a kid. I think you just kind of have like this idea of like, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. And you grow up and you realize that the world is way more colorful than black and white. But you also, what I found was that people can manipulate data to fit some sort of narrative that's not really there, or maybe it is there, but there's more than one way to look at things. And so I guess what I thought was to be simple was very complex. That's what I learned. And I learned that I feel better when I'm around people that understand that and that are willing to talk about the complexities of these issues and not try to find some simple solution that doesn't hold up. And people that are screaming at each other. I think that there was three people. It was like Ben Shapiro, Thomas Sowell, and Jordan Peterson. I listened to them, and now it's like Ben's a little bit out there. He's a little bullheaded. He's a beast, but he's bullheaded. I love the classiness of Thomas Sowell. I love his ability to he's just such a classy person. And I love that Jordan Peterson doesn't always sound like he has the answers. I like how he's self-aware of like, I don't know yet. I don't know. I know how people operate, but I don't know. This is something we can't unpack in an hour. We have to really dissect, and that's kind of how I feel. I'm always open to talking. I just love talking to people that care about issues. So that's what I learned from those people.
So it sounds like that openness there's like an open-handedness that, gosh, it's funny because a child doesn't necessarily understand nuance. Everything is pretty black and white for most kids.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a neighbor child of mine was talking about how he would recognize a bad guy if a bad guy were like coming to kidnap him or something. He'd recognize him because he'd like probably be wearing black and probably be kind of ugly and just have the scruff on his face and just not look like a trustworthy person, look like someone who would be cast to be a bad guy.
Right.
And then you grow up and you realize, oh, actually, like some of the most beautiful people are the worst among us.
Yeah.
And some of the richest are the most poor in some other ways. And so like there is a degree to which growing up does lend itself to that nuance. But there is an open-handedness to being a child and like that sponge quality that you're talking about as well. That I see in what you're describing. And if I can say so, I feel like you do embody those things really well. Your craft, the way you approach it, the way you talk about it, the way you talk about anything related to the arts or to politics or not is very open-handed and understanding and kind of soft-spoken, like you don't have all the answers. And that's one thing I really appreciate about you, James.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I definitely don't have all the answers. I don't have any, really. But I am willing to speak. I think that's what really scared me when this was all going on, is that I felt like I couldn't speak. And I still feel like that where I am now. That's the sad thing.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I do, but it'll probably get me in trouble more than I want. And not even
trouble with who?
Well, just not in trouble, but you just get put on these lists. Like if you bring certain things up, like it's no surprise that New York is just very progressive, and it's like if you go against one thing, someone puts you in this category, and it's like, oh, I didn't know I was a Republican. I never voted in my life before 2015. Like I thought that was the first time I ever voted. I don't identify as a Republican. I don't really know what that even means. There's policies that align with me more than others, and that's just what it is. And you have to exercise your right to vote and hope that the person will carry out what they say. But I'm not like, I don't align with a specific party.
And you don't
But
want people
people like
writing
to
you
put
off
you.
and instantly putting you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and even like that, it's funny that you brought up that social distance song because now I listen to that song and I don't like it, but it was all that came out at the time. But I was so in a bad place, I was just like, I don't know what to do, and I did kind of feel like forced to say something. That was the one time I felt like that, which is really weird because normally I don't feel like I have to say anything about that. I don't have to speak about current events. I don't write for anybody except for me. But that I don't know what it was about that. I felt like I needed to because my roommate works in a hospital and she was talking. I was worried about her. There's all this
Well, there's a lot that we
misinformation.
didn't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because I'm not going to pretend that I listen to social distance and I'm like, wow, yes, like preach it, brother. I'm like, okay, yep, sounds like we're like inflating up a problem, but that's also me and my contrarianism, and I have my own issues that I need to soften my heart to. But but in that sense, like every song is sort of a time capsule of where you were at that exact time. I mean, when we don't look back at our love songs and think like, wow, that was a stupid song because I don't love that person anymore and that relationship was unhealthy. Like the relationship can be unhealthy and we could have been delusional.
Mm-hmm.
Or just very emotional, even if it wasn't delusion, it's just emotion because reality is scary.
Yeah.
And we can be past it, 10 years later when we look back. So I don't know that
Yeah.
it's an either or. I thought
Yeah. No.
it's a well done song. It's a good song.
It's yeah, but it was like the me now, or even I should have just been. I don't know. I hear songs and it almost came off like anti-American in a way. It was really because I remember I said this one thing, but it was just like I was trying to call out myself because in the beginning I was just like we'll come up with something, like we'll come up with a cure, like why is everyone freaking out, you know? And so that's why when I said I said this line about like we'll come up with a cure to this, this is America, like it was I didn't realize well we would have to be working from home now, and so I was trying to call out myself and thinking that we have everything under control when we really
Mm.
don't. But it comes off as like anti-American almost, which is I don't like that because I love America.
Yeah, I guess I could say, I mean, like I said, I give you my first impression of the song, but it's not the most extreme thing you've ever listened to. And also now that I know you, it's like, oh no, I see that like a completely different angle, which is tough because like anytime you release a song, you can't control how the listeners are going to digest it. There are
Hmm.
going to be people who think that Take 21 is Republican or something.
Yeah.
Like it was just a song strictly about the Trumpy types and me explaining how bad they are. And it doesn't matter that wasn't what I wrote it like intended to write it for. Like you let art go and it becomes whatever the listener wants. And that's the beautiful thing and the scary thing about it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you feel like this too, but also like I love when I make a song, like especially for like breakups. That's once I write a breakup song, it's like I don't have to carry that weight anymore. I don't have to.
Mm.
I can always. That's just out of me. You're exercising
I
the.
love breakup songs. They're so good.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I don't want to write anymore though, but like I
I
don't want
want
to
you
have
to
to
get
go through
married
that.
and have little kids and then share your wisdom with them. That's what I want for you. No more
Yeah,
breakups.
that's gonna be a tough one. It's yeah. I don't know. I mean, even like with breakups now, I find like or not breakups, but this last woman that I was with, that it didn't work out because I knew like I didn't feel lucky, even though she was so
Mm.
special. She's such a good person. Um, I took on I wrote about her and I took responsibility. It's weird. When I was younger, I would have put all the weight on the person. I would have said like the blame on the person.
Mm.
Whereas now I don't ever see myself really writing songs blaming the other person anymore because I'm more about taking responsibility for my own actions. So I don't see
That's
any
super Jordan Peterson.
yeah, I just don't see any other new breakup songs. This song was all about me hurting her because we broke up and, me making mistakes.
Mm.
And even like my ex who like really, she, man, like ruined my, a lot of things, my self-esteem and all this stuff, which now I don't even blame her anymore. I'm like, man, we were both young. That was just both of
Mm.
our parts, immaturity and not knowing how to handle the situation. So yeah, I want to take more responsibility for my part, and I don't ever see myself making another breakup song that's like talking trash or down talking the person that I'm
I
with.
don't think there are too many trash breakup songs that I've ever done. I'm trying to pat myself on the back here.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Well, there's one White Lie, which was a collaboration with my friend, my vocal engineer, Roz, who I think actually did the mixing for Old Ways.
Yeah.
He's got a EDM project called Hamster, and Hamster featuring Alma Cook. White Lie was the song. And that was maybe the closest I've ever come. But I feel like I've actually, like, talk about being proud of your kid self. I feel like that's an insight that I've had since I was younger, like like younger than most people would have. Where it's like, wow, I know that, like, my vanity is going to be very inclined to expect that person is completely at fault here. But let me just look at what I could have done better, and let me not try to manipulate them or make them feel worse than they need to feel or any of that stuff. And it's not like I've executed that perfectly in my life, but it's kind of fun as a songwriter to look back and see your own emotional maturity through those little, again, time capsule of songs.
Yeah, I mean,
not that I don't have other issues.
No, of course. But you also, I was talking to a friend about this. My friend's just going through like a really bad breakup, and he's grown so much as a person as well. But I was trying to tell him that a lot of things what my friend does, and I can see it because I'm on the outside. It's like, dude, don't take all the responsibility, because there's always something you could have done better. But what you're doing is you're not seeing what she did wrong, and when you want to talk about like doing good things in the relationship, you outweighed her completely. And I'm saying that as objective as I can. Or being as objective as I can, because I mean, you were the better person in that thing. And if you take on too much of the blame, you're not going to see that person just was not right for you.
Yeah.
So
agree.
you have to see it at least both ways, but it's definitely
there's like a pendulum thing, and it reminds me of so for somebody who's like a control freak and feels like the world will fall apart if they don't, like, let's say I'm a business owner and I just feel like if I'm not there 24/7, my business is going to crumble. Like, that might be a person that you would turn to and be like, you know what, Alma, you're not needed. Not like that. Like we want you here and you make it better, but you're not needed like that. Like, you're not needed. And that's a comforting thing for someone who's a control freak to hear. Like, okay, breathe in. I'm not needed.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody who feels worthless or feels like they're not contributing to the world or at their company or whatever, you're not going to be like, oh, you're not needed, James. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't things we don't give the same like words of like motivating words to people in all circumstances. You have to cater it. So you're totally right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you agree with that. At least there's no pushback there.
No pushback. We actually found something in common.
Yeah, common ground there. Not so much as the
like
love and the love
and the
yeah,
songwriting or whatever. I don't even remember what it was. Well, let's wrap up here. I heard word on the street being you, that you're stepping back from music for a time after this album comes out.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
I don't know. I'm in a weird place. I don't know if I want to stay in New York. I have a friend who's really off the grid. She's so off the grid, she doesn't know who Justin Bieber is. Like, it's really impressive how off the grid she is.
Where does she live?
She lives in Portland now. She was backpacking
Oregon?
in Indonesia. Yeah.
Or Maine?
Oregon.
Oh my gosh. How do you stay in Portland and be that off the grid?
Oh man, she works for like a marijuana thing. I don't know. And like just trims marijuana. I don't know. She makes money, but she's not connected. I haven't spoken to her in like 4 years. I talk to her sister still, who lives here. We were friends in elementary school, and she I admire that. I don't ever want to be that off the grid, but I kind of want to get off social media. Only reason I'm really on there is to not be completely blind, but also supposed to be promoting music, which I don't even care anymore. But I care a little bit because I want to get it to the right hands. But I want to just get out of here. I don't know where I'm gonna go, but I want to just go somewhere, and I think I'll be all right wherever I go. But I just got to figure it out, and I'm gonna pack up and start over and do whatever somewhere where I feel.
I vote Williston, North Dakota. and you get
Yeah.
a job in the oil fields, and then we can hang out all the time.
What's the?
I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. I think that would be really good for you.
Really. All right. I mean,
And
I'm
good work
open-
is hard to find. I mean, like there'd be a learning curve because it's manual labor, but you have a CDL. Now this
Yeah.
is like Artist of the Month job coaching class edition.
Yeah, yeah. Career swapping.
You have a CDL, which puts you, you know, on par with like a lot of the guys out there, and you've got experience in a small town. It's not like you're a total city slicker. You have hard work and grit. Like I think you would do well in the oil field. And you can start with a pretty good wage.
Well, I mean, the only thing is, this is the weird thing when you talk about moving somewhere. Like I'm 33, so we're getting to that point where I'm not.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, it's not. Well, yeah, Jesus numbers. But it's like I do eventually want to start a family. Like I said, I think people are most important to me, over anything. Just loving somebody is the most important thing, and it might be a little hard to find somebody in a small town.
That's a good point.
That's the only thing that I because I kind of do want to move to somewhere that's a little bit more conservative and family oriented as far as that goes. But it just to find somebody in an area like that might be really hard, especially when you work long hours. But we could talk about it because I'm open to just getting out of here and going somewhere else for sure. We can definitely. You better take me up on that. Or I'll take you up on that. But
Yes.
you have to
let's
keep
keep talking.
talking about
I
that. But
at minimum have some friends that you would love up there. But yeah, so
Oh, cool.
you're looking at going off the grid,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that means
just-
no socials, no potentially no music. But I feel like you would still be doing music because, like you said, you almost can't control when the creativity strikes.
Right. So it's like even yesterday I wrote a song to this Drake beat because I just heard the Drake beat. It wasn't a song, but it was just like a verse.
I
But it's
know
like
what
it's
that's
just
like.
it's
Yeah.
just Drake. You just hear it and you're like, all right, I just gotta. It comes out. I wrote it like 7 minutes, and it just happens. And I'll always do that. But I do wanna I wanna focus my writing more on screenplays. I've been reading a bunch of screenplays, and I feel like I want to immortalize people that mean a lot to me. Whether it's Rico, whether it's my dad, because there's just so many things about my dad. I didn't even tell you like about his brother, my uncle who passed away, who was he was living in Wisconsin. He built a house in Wisconsin brick for brick, like molded every brick, and was living in the shed while he was building the house. The people in my family are so out there that you could just tell stories for days. It's insane. Like he got divorced 'cause he was tearing his family apart because he was so weird. He was living in a shed while building this mansion, and the mansion sold. I don't even know where it was. I never met him. But I want to immortalize these people that are kind of going to go away if no one talks about them. So, and I think the best way to do that would be in movie form. So that's kind of what I want to do. Focus on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have experience writing screenplays?
No, but I didn't have experience rapping either. And it's like, I just
Yeah.
kind of, it's the same thing. And I think that I'm not chasing like success with it. I'm more or less just chasing the craft. I feel like as long as I have something to keep me busy that I care about, I won't resent anything in the world. I'll be able to, it's the same thing with having a family. I'll work in an oil field all day if I know I'm coming home. I don't mind being a creative but doing something else if I'm doing it to bring money home for my family. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's everything's a sacrifice. And as long as I have something that I can play with on my own that I love to do, like as a passion, I'll be fine. I don't care where it goes.
JustJames, everybody. Where
Thank
can
you.
people find you? Where do you want to direct people?
JustJames Music on Instagram. Can't even remember.
I forgot Instagram exists. I've been
I
off
can't
it
even.
for like a year
It's
now.
so bad. It's not. It's bad. I'm trying to figure out if let me just look at my handle because I don't even know it on Twitter. I couldn't. Okay, so it's _ JustJames Music on
Underscore.
Twitter. Yeah, I didn't know if the underscore was after or not. But and
And
that's
people can find you on Spotify, Apple Music,
Apple
Just
Music,
James,
right.
one word.
yep.
And you've got like your head is your logo basically.
Yeah,
So
my
a lot of
friend
your
made that.
artwork has your face.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my
yeah.
face. One of them has my face on it too.
Yeah, I really like that too. Your hair kind of looks like it now. That was pretty
It
dope.
kind of does.
Yeah, yeah. That was the picture. I
The
found the
curly
picture
mop.
and told him to make it like that.
So cool.
Yeah, thank you
It's
for
an
having
honor
me
to
though. I
collaborate
really.
with you. Of course. Thank you for joining and being so candid and open. It's particularly hard to get anyone conservative leaning to like speak openly about it as an artist because there aren't too many of us out there. But wow, this hair is just Awesome.
Well, I mean, do what you can with it while you can, because I can't do anything.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah, count our blessings.
yeah, exactly.
We all have different gifts.
Be happy. It's messy. Just throw it whatever way you can.
Oh, I do and I will. Yeah, it's an honor to talk. It's an honor to talk to you, James, and it's an honor also to call you my friend. I'm so excited for what you do next, and thanks again for being here.
But it's for you to decide if you want to make your dreams come true or move to the side. Now you can choose to hide your feelings and use a disguise and show up every day for work in a suit with a tie, sit behind a desk in a computer. But I don't think you'll like it too much, cause you'll probably get arthritis just from typing too much. You feel the weight on your shoulders and think it might be too much, but you gotta keep pushing forward to get through life when it's tough. When you see that window of opportunity, climb through it, cause you could do anything if you put your mind to it. Don't think you needed my help, but I was hoping if nothing else I get you to believe in yourself. It's motivation.